So what about attracting your first coaching client, Paul? What do you recommend to coaches that are trying to get their feet wet? They're trying to gain some experience. There's a lot of uncertainty around their ability as a coach because maybe they haven't had a lot of experience where they're actually doing one-on-one coaching. Although in most coaching, if you're doing coaching training, that's part of what the training is set up to do, is to give you those types of experiences ahead of time.
Mm.
Anyways, the question, yeah, is how can you attract your first client, Paul? What do you recommend people do?
Another fantastic question, Tyler. You know, the way that I would approach looking at that question is to potentially think about the things that you don't necessarily need to have in place to get those first few clients on board.
Right.
There's potentially, we're all different, and we all have different appetites about when that time is that we are ready to put ourselves out there and start looking for the first couple of clients, which is a massive milestone to get past, by the way.
Mm.
That's a huge step. That's back to that identity piece. That's when we're um, picturing ourselves as a coach. We're keen to sort of get those first couple of clients on board. The things that we have a tendency to think we need to get everything perfect. We have to have our paperwork, business registration. We have to have websites. No one's gonna believe we're credible unless we've got some sort of social proof out there. X amount of we've got a tendency to think we need to be doing things that aren't necessarily going to be taking us steps closer towards getting that first person to say yes. So my advice on this question is you most likely know already the first couple of clients that you can bring into your business.
Mm.
You know, Again, everyone's different. Everyone's got a different situation, but most of us have networks. We have previous colleagues. We've got a wide range of existing networks that we can start promoting ourselves to.
Yeah.
And if you think about what is actually required, what needs to happen, you need to initiate conversation. And to do that, you don't necessarily need anything fancy. It might be reaching out organically, people you haven't made contact with for X amount of time. I would encourage people to just put a list together of everybody they know and work down that list. And it doesn't need to be any more than genuinely reaching out and starting a conversation. Hey, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And if you're not attached to any particular outcome, you have no idea what's going to come from any of those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in summary, I guess it's less looking at, or think about the things that you are potentially thinking you need and question, do I really need these things to get my first couple of clients? And then really focus on, all right, what do I need to be doing? And ultimately it's starting conversations, making
Mm-hmm.
offers, and, again, back to the inner work. We need to feel ready. We need to believe that we're ready at some level. And again, these are skills we need to develop, and the only way these skills develop is by putting reps in, putting the practice in.
Yeah.
Yeah. How would you answer that same question, Tyler? Do you agree, or would you add anything to that?
Well, how to attract our first coaching clients? I think there's different approaches, and one of the definitions, I think there's a word missing. How can I attract my first paying coaching client? So,
Mm.
which is different than having a client that you're working with for free. And I would probably suggest at the very, very beginning, not focusing on the money, but focus on the relationship and how can you support and serve this other person. And you know, uh, there's a balance because I would say you don't want to lose yourself and try to chase them and give yourself away, and then in hopes that somehow you can get some money from them. Like if I do it for free, then they'll pay me, maybe down the road. So I think the important thing is, if you're going to do it for free, be very clear about what your free offer is. So maybe it's 3 sessions for an hour, and
Mm.
at the end of those 3 sessions, I'll we can see where we're at and reevaluate and see if you want to continue. But at that time, they would be paid sessions, and
Yeah.
we can determine the amount that works for both of us. I might do something like that. You could also maybe approach the first 3 sessions. You could say the first 3 sessions, I'm willing to, because you can be very transparent about it, because I'm just starting out. I'm willing to offer the first 3 sessions for free, and in return, I would like a testimonial from you to help, that I can share freely on my website. Um, or you could say a testimonial, and if you feel like it's been beneficial, that you've received something, and you want to offer some financial exchange at that point, there's no pressure to, and I don't expect it, but I would, you could make a donation, for example, at whatever the amount is that you feel you'd like to make, and I'm open and receptive to receiving that. So there's all kinds of, and the reason why you might approach it this way at the beginning is because you're looking to gain experience and confidence and certainty in your ability as a coach. And
Mm.
so it's really important, there's a big difference between being in a course where the instructors are creating kind of this environment, this role playing environment where you're doing this free coaching or coaching exercises with another coach who's also learning to be a coach. And it's not the same as being out on your own in the real world, having conversations with people that have nothing to do with your course or curriculum.
Mm.
So I would kind of approach it that way, and and test the waters. I think a lot of the problems that we face at the beginning is, and I've always found this in business, when you're really busy, when you have a lot of clients, you can afford to charge them more, ironically. And that's usually the time when you actually, money isn't so much of an issue. The time is the problem. You don't have enough time to do all the work. And so a way that you kind of balance that is by charging more money. So what it tends to do is it tends to push away the outliers that are trying to get at you, but they don't really, they leave you alone, and then you can focus on the clients that you are really, you're connected with and that you really want to serve. But just to finish my point, ironically, when you're not busy, that's actually when you need the money the most, theoretically, depending on your situation. But in general, that's when you need the money the most, and that's when you really want to be charging more money to clients. But what ends up happening is you're ending up charging less money at the beginning, because you don't want the financial part to be a barrier to stop or prevent the client from using your service. So it's kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if you can relate to that, Paul, if you've experienced that at all, being in business for yourself. But it's something I've observed over the years in my
Mm.
own business as a marketing consultant and coach.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more with everything that you've said there. Just adding to that, I guess there are many different ways to approach this. You know, there are many different schools of thought on, what you said there. Absolutely, I love that line of thinking. Other methodologies, I guess, are to think through what your value is, and to to approach this process as a learning curve. A little bit more directly towards that, but One thing I would say is whatever path you choose to do, I think it is, back to this process of, giving things a go and seeing what works. We just don't know what we should be doing for step number 2 until we've completed step number 1. There's many different things, and we don't know what's going to be most suited to us. If I was to give some advice to anyone out there looking to get their first clients, I would probably also add, even if you are, I love that you clarified the definition there, Tyler, and what that actually means. But if you are looking to get your first clients, even if that is paid clients, if you're approaching free coaching, I would agree with absolutely everything you mentioned there, Tyler. I would be approaching any sort of free coaching arrangement as if it is a paid relationship.
Yep.
In exactly the same way, because you still want to go into these conversations thinking about when the best appropriate time, when it feels right to suggest a sales call of some description. So even if it's going to be a free call, even if it's going to be a free package that you're going to offer, I would still be thinking in terms of moving it to whether you call it a sales call, a clarity call, moving it to an environment where both parties get the opportunity to, have a talk through what is actually needed, because that's the process that you're going to be doing when you get into paid coaching. It's these opportunities to turn up and determine whether you're on the same page, whether this is someone that you want to work with. Even sort of premeditating what the offer is. Those sales calls, you can kind of, during that conversation, determine what you think is the best offer to make, especially earlier on.
Yeah.
But I completely agree with you that set some boundaries around that offer. Set some expectations about what you do want in return, even if it's not money. About, if you've found some value, reviews and the like. It's a fantastic way to just build that self-belief and confidence in both your coaching and the business skills that are required.